Your life as every level of a deep state surveillance specialist level 1, the headphones. The call comes in at 11:47 p.m. and you write it down. Not because anyone told you to write it down specifically. Because that's the job. You sit in a basement room with no windows, 43 other workstations around you, each one occupied by someone staring at the same kind of screen, wearing the same kind of headphones, logging the same kind of nothing. The fluorescent lights have been on for 9 hours. You stopped noticing them around hour 3. The call is a man ordering food. That's it. The flag on his number is 6 weeks old, generated by a keyword match on a different call that turned out to be a misfire. You log the call. You mark it clean. You move to the next one. This is the job at level 1. You monitor. You log. You flag or you don't flag. You pass things up and you never find out what happens to them. The system is designed that way. You see your slice and nothing else, and your slice is exactly as wide as you need it to be to perform your function without understanding the larger architecture. You've been here 4 months. You make $3,200 a month after taxes. The clearance required to sit in this room took 8 months to process. You signed documents that explained, in precise legal language, the consequences of discussing your work with anyone who doesn't share your clearance level. You understood the consequences. You signed. The first moral moment of this level is small enough that you almost miss it. A call comes in, a woman, clearly distressed, saying things to her sister that are private in the way that only late-night conversations between sisters can be. The flag is algorithmic. The flag doesn't know what private means. You listen to 90 seconds of something you shouldn't be hearing, and you mark it clean, and you move to the next one. You don't think about the woman again. That's either professionalism or the beginning of something else. You don't examine which one yet. Level 2. The pattern. 8 months in and you've been moved. Not promoted exactly. Repositioned. The new room has fewer people and better light. Your monitor is larger. Your dataset is broader. Where level 1 was individual calls, level 2 is behavioral patterns, the aggregate of communications over time, the shape of a person's digital life rendered as data. You can read the way a cardiologist reads an EKG. You are good at this. That's why you're here. You identify patterns that the algorithm misses because you've been trained to see not just what the data says but what the data is trying not to say. Gaps in communication. Schedule changes. The specific rhythm of someone who has changed their behavior without changing their stated reason for changing it. 3 weeks into level 2, you identify a pattern in a financial advisor's communication history that suggests, without confirming, that he's moving money in a way that creates a specific shape. You write the report. You submit it. 6 days later, your supervisor, a woman named Farida who has said a total of 14 words to you across 8 months, stops at your station and tells you the report was useful. That's the whole conversation. But you understand what it means in this system. In this system, useful is the currency that everything else is purchased with. You've just made your first deposit. You've also done something you don't fully account for yet. You've built a case on inference. The financial advisor was never confirmed to be doing anything wrong. You identified the shape of possible wrongdoing and you passed it up and something happened with it and you weren't told what. In a courtroom, what you did would require specific legal authority. In this room, it required the pattern and your read of the pattern. You file that distinction somewhere. You go back to the data. Level 3, the access. 14 months in and your clearance has been upgraded. The new clearance means new databases. It means access to streams you couldn't see before, not just communications but location data, financial transaction flows, association mapping. The person who was a name and a phone number is now a three-dimensional object you can rotate. You can see where they were at every moment their phone was active. You can see who they stood near. You can see the purchases that show you what they needed and when they needed it. You are looking at complete human lives. And the looking is specifically authorized. That's what you tell yourself. That's accurate. The authorization exists, the legal framework exists, the oversight structure exists in the documents that govern this work. You are not operating outside the rules. You are operating at the outer edge of the rules. That edge is where the interesting work is. You run your first integrated profile on a city councilman whose name appeared in 2 separate flagged communication chains. The profile takes you 3 days. By the end of it, you know things about this man, his finances, his movements, his associations, his private communications with people who are not his wife, that give you a complete understanding of his vulnerabilities. You write the report. You submit it. You don't ask what it's for. This is the adaptation that Level 3 requires. You stop asking what things are for, and you start asking only whether things are done correctly. Correctness becomes the moral framework. If the process was followed, the outcome is legitimate. You've replaced one system of ethics with another, more functional one, and the replacement happened gradually enough that you can't point to the moment it completed. Level 4, the room. 2 years in, and you are in a room that doesn't appear on the building's official floor plan. The room exists in a gap between two documented spaces, literally, architecturally, a room that was built into the structure without being recorded in the public records. You know this because someone told you, casually, as if it were an interesting piece of trivia. You are now the kind of person who is told such things casually. Your function here is coordination. You manage 7 Level 1 and Level 2 operators without their knowing you manage them. Their work flows to you through automated systems, and you see the aggregate of what they produce. You also manage relationships with 3 external data brokers whose existence is not documented in any official capacity. They provide information that official channels cannot provide, and you pay for it through mechanisms that official channels cannot trace. In a given month, you handle approximately 40 active subjects. Not cases, subjects. The distinction matters. Cases have legal standing. Subjects are people you are watching for reasons that exist inside the system's logic without necessarily existing inside a courtroom's logic. One of the subjects this month is a journalist. She has been investigating a story connected to something you flagged 8 months ago at Level 2. You don't know the full picture, you never know the full picture, but you can see that your work is inside the larger thing she's investigating, and you can see that the people above you are interested in her. You watch her the way you watch everyone. Completely and without friction. She has a daughter. 8 years old. You know this because the location data shows consistent school-adjacent patterns every weekday morning. You know the school. You don't do anything with that information. But you have it. And the having of it is its own kind of line, crossed without a step being taken. Level 5, the leverage. 3 years in, and you understand the actual economy of the system. Information at Level 5 is not just intelligence. It is leverage. The distinction is this: intelligence goes upward, to be used by people above you for purposes you don't fully know. Leverage stays horizontal, or moves laterally, and it is used to maintain the relationships that keep you operational. You have files on 11 people who matter to how you function. 2 of them are elected officials. 3 are law enforcement figures at the federal level. 2 are private sector individuals whose cooperation makes certain data streams possible. 4 are inside the system, people at your level or slightly above who have useful vulnerabilities. You don't threaten anyone. Threat is for people who lack patience. You simply know things, and the people you know things about know that you know, and this knowing creates a specific relationship that requires no explicit statement to function perfectly. The journalist from Level 4 is no longer a subject. She has become something else. Her story has been managed. You don't know how, you don't ask, and she has moved to a different beat. You saw it happen in the data. 1 week she was investigating a specific thread. The next week the thread was gone from her digital activity. The week after that she was working on a story about municipal parks. You don't know what happened in the space between the thread and the parks. You know what that space is for. You've made $84,000 in payments over 3 years that don't appear on any tax document. Not because you're corrupt, you tell yourself. Because the system requires certain funding mechanisms that official channels can't accommodate. The distinction between corrupt and necessary is, at Level 5, more a matter of framing than substance. Level 6, the architect. 4.5 years in, and you design systems rather than operate them. The Level 1 operators who generate their reports into the void are generating them into architecture you built. The pattern recognition parameters they work within were established by you. The flags that wake up their algorithms were calibrated by you, based on years of understanding what patterns actually predict versus what patterns generate useful noise. You have 17 direct reports who don't know they report to you. Your name does not appear in their documentation. You are present in their work as a set of rules and parameters, invisible and total. The city you operate in, and you think of it as the city you operate in, which is the first language of ownership, generates approximately 40 million data points per day from the infrastructure you have access to. Camera networks, communication intercepts, financial transaction flows, location data from the phones of 2.3 million people who have agreed, in terms of service documents they never read, to share this information. You have built a model of the city that updates in near real time. Any significant behavioral anomaly anywhere in the system will surface to you within 4 hours. You are not watching everyone. You have built a system that watches everyone and brings you what you need to see. The distinction is important to you. You are not sure it's important to anyone else. Level 7, the ghost. 6 years in and your name is not in the system you operate. Not redacted. Not classified. Not present. The system has your access credentials, your logins, your authorizations. It does not have your name attached to those credentials in any document that could be subpoenaed, audited, or reviewed. You exist in the operational layer as a function, not a person. This was not done to you. You arranged it. The officials who interface with you, there are 3, at different levels of government, who know enough about what you do to be useful and not enough to be dangerous, refer to you by a designation that changes every 6 months. You don't know what designation they're currently using. You don't need to. The journalist's story, the original one, for years ago, has surfaced again. A different journalist, a different angle, but connected. You can see the connection in the data. You watch this new journalist the way you watched the first one. He has a pattern that concerns you. Not what he's found. He hasn't found anything yet. The pattern concerns you because it's the pattern of someone who is asking the right questions. He doesn't know they're the right questions. But the shape of his inquiry is converging on something. You flag the subject internally. You do not explain the flag. The flag will be acted on by people at level 4 who will take actions you don't need to specify because the system understands what the flag means. You think about this for approximately 90 seconds. Then you think about something else. This is what level 7 costs. Not sleep, not relationships. You surrendered those incrementally across the 6 years. What level 7 costs is the specificity of consequence. You can no longer see the individual shape of what your decisions produce. You see the system responding correctly to inputs. The inputs are yours. The responses are someone else's function. You are the cause. You are not the effect. You stopped being able to locate the line between those 2 things around year 4. Level 8, the god of the grid. You don't have an office. You have 3 locations where you work, none of which are connected to each other in any official document. You rotate between them on a schedule that you generate randomly each week. No one knows your schedule. You don't tell anyone your schedule because there is no one to tell. The system you've built over 7 years covers a metropolitan area of 3.1 million people. It processes $2.2 billion in transaction data per month. It tracks 4.7 million active devices. It has predictive models that can identify with 83% accuracy which locations in the city will experience elevated criminal activity in the next 72 hours, and which individuals in the city's top 3 percentile of behavioral anomaly are likely to take significant action in the next 30 days. The system told you, 14 days ago, that a city council vote on a surveillance infrastructure contract would go a specific way. The vote went that way. The model was right. This is not the interesting part. The interesting part is that the city council members who voted on that contract are in your system. Their behavioral data is in your model. The model's prediction was not passive. It was informed by years of their patterns, and those patterns were influenced, at various points, by information you caused to be placed in their environments. The prediction was accurate in part because the outcome was shaped by the same system that predicted it. You built a city that confirms your models. You don't think about this in those terms. You think about it in terms of system accuracy and model validation and the operational effectiveness of predictive infrastructure. The language protects you from the thing the language describes. You are 51 years old. You have not had a conversation that you would describe as personal in approximately 3 years. Not because no one tries, but because you have become, over 7 years of complete information asymmetry, incapable of the specific vulnerability that personal conversation requires. You know too much about how people work. You can see the conversation structure before it happens. You can see what the other person is trying to do. The seeing makes the being in it impossible. You are the most informed person in a city of 3 million. You know less about yourself than you know about any of them. At night, in the third location, the one that functions as sleep-adjacent space, you review the city's overnight patterns. Not because you have to. Because the city, running in real time across your screens, is the only thing that still feels like something. The system is working correctly. The system is always working correctly. That is the weight of level 8. Not that things go wrong. That things keep going right. Somewhere in a basement room, a new operator puts on headphones. The fluorescent lights have been on for 3 hours. He stopped noticing them around hour 1. A call comes in. He logs it. He marks it clean. He passes to the next. He is good at this. Someone noticed. That's why he's here. He thinks the job is listening. He doesn't know the job is becoming. But the system knows. The system is patient. It always gets what it came for.